Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The SNP are up to their usual shenanigans again. This time they want political oversight of the judiciary. They want ministers to have the final say on what the law is and how it should be interpreted, and indeed probably going to end up with ministers saying whether people are innocent or guilty, not the courts. Seems to be the direction of travel. This is something that obviously needs to be fought. It's something that's raised its head in the past and been rejected, and now they're trying to slide it in again through the back door. But the legal profession are already on the case. We'll take a look at this to see why this absolutely massively dangerous thing, where judiciary is no longer independent from the executive, must be resisted, is a step towards dictatorship, towards a single party Marxist state where nobody is innocent until the Prime Minister, the First Minister, says they are. This could be a stepping stone to political trials, to putting people in prison because they disagree with the SNP, and where the judiciary are unable to offer any kind of justice to the people of Scotland. Here goes. Now, this should strike fear into everyone, regardless of who they are, what party they support, anything. To have the executive, to have the First Minister ultimately responsible as to whether someone goes to court and whether they're found guilty or innocent because of the oversight by the executive of the judiciary is obviously wrong. It means that if you disagree with the SNP, if you show dissent, they can arrange for you to be arrested, have a trial and be found guilty before you've even presented evidence because you are going against what they say. It sounds extreme, but this is exactly what happens in countries where the executive is in control of the judiciary. One only has to look at the likes of China, North Korea, the Soviet Union in the past, East Germany in the past, and so forth. Dictatorships never are good for the people. And yet that is what the SNP are pushing for. Total and absolute control of every aspect of life in Scotland. It is a power grab, and it is unwelcome, it is unnecessary, and it is, as I say, dangerous. SNP legal reforms hand lawyers an unwelcome surprise with a focus on an undemocratic sailed ship, reads the headline. And it is totally undemocratic. So there's Rodney Dunlop. He's the Dean of the Faculty of Advocates, I believe is his official title. But he's one of the most senior solicitors in Scotland's KC. But anyway, MSPs have been told that the talking points for reforms to Scotland's legal profession are simply rehashing old and heavily rejected ideas of ministerial oversight. Only recently was this said to leave the system open to political abuse. And of course, it always will be whenever you have ministers and the executive controlling the judiciary. For example, you won't be promoted, to the Supreme Court or anything unless you have delivered the verdicts they want you to deliver. You will be put on a league table, and if you fail to prosecute enough, get a successful prosecution of enough of, say, the Isle of Women trials, for example, you could be debenched, you could be taken away and lose your judgeship. Why should this happen? A judge may have then to be forced to find someone guilty just to keep his job. So whether you've done it or not, it doesn't matter. The judge has a quota to meet, and an innocent man may be imprisoned because of a quota system. MSPs are focusing on a sailed ship that has no place in democracy, says leading legal minds that have been asked to weigh in on legislation to reform regulations to Scotland's legal profession. Much of the SNP government's plans to update a decades-old bill has been welcomed. However, top lawyers fear that the process is visiting an idea of ministerial oversight that is feared will be open to political abuse. Not feared to be, it will absolutely day one be used by political misuse. Those politicians can't help themselves, and if they can control the judiciary, then they will be on a power steal. They will form basically a dictatorship where nobody will have justice unless it is the SNP's justice. It is the move towards a single party state. They could sit there and get the courts to decide whether or not, say, the Labour Party or the Conservative Party could be made an illegal organisation within Scotland. It's within their power to do so. What judge is going to say against the government if he knows he's about to lose his job? This is the problem you have with this. Scottish ministers are set to have more say over the running of the legal sector. However, senior legal figures have warned once again that the move threatens the sector's long-held independence. You must have an independent judiciary. Justice must be removed from both the executive and the legislature. To do anything else leads to the centralisation of power, which leads to dictatorship. Ronnie Dunlop KC from the Faculty of Advocates told Holyrood's Equalities, Human Rights and Civil Justice Committee, well, there's something that I'm surprised even thinkingly exists. There's very few human rights and civil justice in the SNP. He says, I confess to some surprise and indeed some concern to find the first questions that the committee wished to explore today centred around the question of the potential new regulator of the legal profession. It was compellingly rejected as unwarranted and unwise by the senior judiciary. Doubtless, as a result, it finds no place in the draft bill. Accordingly, some of the questions that are being posed today focus on a ship that was thought to have sailed long ago. He said, I would try and stress the following. First, and now remember, this is one of Scotland's leading legal minds. He said, firstly, as was noted by the senior judiciary in 2019, the single and independent regulator proposed by the Robertson Report and accountable to audit Scotland and the Scottish Parliament would serve only to destroy the independence of the legal profession and in turn impinge upon the independence of the judiciary, Mr Dunlop told MSPs. He's basically saying if there is any kind of executive oversight by a government minister or a department, then there would be no independence in the judiciary of Scotland, and therefore all cases would be political and not judicial. He went on to state that it would require a Herculean effort to set up a new regulator to take over what is done by faculty, all without any cost to the public or the public purse. The Scottish Government denied that they would interfere with the profession. They deny it, but you know that they lie. We know they lie continually, so any kind of denial that they say is bullshit. He said they claim their proposals would improve accountability and would allow ministers to review the regulatory performance, and that's where you're getting to, performance of these organisations, but allow new bodies to become regulators. This performance measurement means if you don't perform in a way that they approve of, they will fire you. If you don't get enough, convictions of women, for example, they will fire you. If you start finding cases against the government, they will fire you. If you make legal decisions that they don't like, they will fire you. This is their oversight. This is what they're claiming by becoming the regulators. Regulation of Scotland's legal profession is currently done by a string of independent bodies, including the Law Society of Scotland and the Faculty of Advocates. These bodies operate under the independent supervision of the Lord President, the country's most senior judge, currently Lord Carloway. Mr Dunlop was joined by Darren Murdoch, President of the Scottish Law Agents Society, who said, I believe that all sections within the bill are relative to Scottish ministers having power over the legal profession should be omitted. Well, of course it should. No government minister should have control of the judiciary. The judiciary belongs to the people, not to the executive, not to Parliament, certainly not to any government minister. It must, and it always has been and must continue to be, independent of them. Judiciary is in the hands of the people. It is our justice, not theirs. It is used to hold them to account as well as us. And that must continue. He said, this is Darren Murdoch said, I just don't believe that these sections have any place whatsoever in a democratic society. Because without a free and independent judiciary, you have no democratic society. You only have a dictatorship. The Scottish Government said they had no intention of changing the vital importance of having an independent legal sector, but the Scottish Government lie continually, and you can believe nothing. And we know they lie because the whole Parliament is filled with liars, and the government is filled with liars, and they've still got a liar as a health secretary. Why should we believe anything? Coming up. So then, good people, do you trust the SNP to deliver free, open, independent, honest justice? Or do you think they'll make a power grab and use the judiciary to push their obsession and to change the laws to suit them and to ensure that no judge will ever find against anything they do, because ultimately they employ the judges? It's a bit too much like marking your own homework. I think we all agree that a justice system independent of the Parliament and independent of the government is the only way in which freedom can be maintained, democracy can be strengthened, and we the people can be protected from the likes of Humza Yousaf and his Marxist dictatorship wannabes. Thank you very much for listening. Fight the good fight. Speak soon. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.